All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews, and today we're doing something a little different, and that's we're going to be talking about something that I was thinking about today. So in my channel description, I say, sometimes we're going to talk about topics that just pop into my head, and this is one of those times. I was thinking about how I'm not really that geared up to see the second half of the Walking Dead season, and one of the main things about it, and the reason that is because, and if you watched any of my reviews, I am not happy with the difference between the comic and the TV show. That's right, I'm one of those people. And what I was thinking about was just this really simple thing that I can't believe hasn't become a thing. And that's, how is the Walking Dead television show not been adapted into its own comic book? Now, bear with me, because this is actually the second time I've done this video. I erased the other one because I made a couple of mistakes that I just didn't feel like dealing with people in the comments section correcting me about something that I had a brain fart about. So we're doing this again. So here we go. So they've been pretty far off the mark these days. The one thing that has remained consistent about the comic and the television show is the main events that take place in the comic pretty much follow, and on the TV show, they pretty much follow the same kind of thing. From Atlanta to the Whisperers, those events all kind of happen in a row. There's not like the Whisperers were before Negan, or the Governor was after the Whisperer. They're not doing things out of order as far as story-wise, like main plot. But as far as characters go, it is so far fucking gone that I can't take it any longer. Switching things around, this person gets this person's death, this person's still alive, this person's dead. All in the way that they always put it, that they want to take our expectations and give us something better, something that we didn't know we wanted, or when we saw it, we'd be like, wow, that was cool. And for me personally, not one time have they done that where I was like, cool, that was way better than the thing that's already good. They've never done it to my satisfaction, made something better by changing it. In fact, they've just made it weaker to me. But see, if you don't know, if you are not a comic reader, you wouldn't know that there are different versions to the way things happen with characters and how characters act and behave. Complete behavior changes between characters, You wouldn't know that. But I do, and I've let it bother me so much over the years that I don't look forward to the show anymore. I've said in my other reviews, especially before the season 9 even started, that I was just so not looking forward to even watching or reviewing, or, I was thinking about not doing either. Because I like what's on the page, and I want to see that. Knowing that they have to take some license away from it, certain things they just can't show or do or whatever, I understand that. But when they fundamentally change characters or switch characters around or give this thing to that character, that really bugs me. It's like if you have a favorite book that they adapted, and I think a lot of people have this, right? You say you like whatever, when they were making Deadpool, let's just call it Deadpool, right? What if they made Wade Wilson and they did something where they changed his name to Rick Wilson, and he was not part of Weapon, he doesn't have a healing factor, and they just made it that he can just take a lot of punishment, or just something. They just fundamentally change, the character. Or, I don't know, if they took the Flash and made him I don't know, a woman, and there was instead of Barry Allen, it was Barbara Allen, and all this, not to say that a woman character would be bad, but I'm just saying if they just went and said, oh well, he's gonna be Barbara now because why not? Fuck it, or in a regular book, if well, let's pick a book that everybody likes. Like, what if they read, they made Harry Potter an adult? I don't know. I'm just throwing things at the wall here. Like to just give you an example of like, what if they just cut Hermione out of the movies? You know what I mean? And they just were like, we didn't think it needed it. We're going to give you something better. Not once has this happened for me on the show. And so I was thinking about the differences and how that always frustrates me. And I just kind of came to the conclusion. I was like, why isn't there a television version of the comic book? Like, if you go to your comic book show, your local comic shop, besides Marvel and DC and Image stuff and your basic fare, Spider-Man, Superman, whatever, there's a whole section, usually separated, like in one of my comic shops that I go to. It's all separated, where there's like a ton of internet intellectual properties that have been turned into comic books. You've got Rick and Morty, you've got Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you've got Firefly, you've got Mystery Science Theater 3000 is a comic book. I've never read it. I just heard about it the other day. I don't even know how you make that a comic book, but it is. They have licensed adaptations for, the official, Star Wars The Force Awakens comic. They do the same thing in book form too. They'll have the book form you can read a movie of. You know what I mean? And I think, there's like the X-Files has a comic book, that follows, you don't know, I don't know if it's canon or not or whatever, but they do all these things. And it just blew my mind that I couldn't believe that once I thought about it, how isn't there a Walking Dead television show companion piece? And here's, bear with me because, it seems like a no-brainer to me. For all the people that are like me, who like the comic book form better than the TV show, for me, it's never let me down. And for all those people that get frustrated with that, if there was a comic book version of the TV show, and I don't mean like episode 4 version of it, like not a complete adaptation, but like a companion piece to where they can tell all the stories that they want to tell. Things that maybe they couldn't do because of a budget, or filling in the gaps between seasons. Like, what happened after All Out War, between All Out War and, season 8 and season 9, like during that time jump, what happened? They could write all this stuff. They could make up new characters. They could introduce characters that they were going to bring onto the show in the comic, and then boom, you wouldn't have to have all this elaborate storylines where you get to know somebody that they'd force you to like, try to like somebody that you didn't know nothing about. If you had the comic book, they could write about this character, they could build that character up, and then they introduce them on the show, and you'd already kind of care. And not just that, but it would be a way to just completely separate the Walking Dead original comic to, and the original source material, and for people like me that consider it to be the purest form of the property, you could have this whole thing that just does its own thing from here on out. Like, maybe they'll borrow a little bit from the comic, the original comic, but otherwise they do their own thing, and they can make up all the stories they want. Because as far as characters go that are still alive right now, okay, as of issue 186, out of the new issues, 186, the only characters that are alive on the show and in the comic right now are Michonne, Eugene, Sadiq. You could say Maggie, but Maggie is so far different. Like, what's going on in the show, she might as well be dead. And I'm really struggling to think of any more people, because there are people that are in the comic that aren't on the show anymore that weren't killed off. But like Daryl doesn't exist in the comic. Carol has been dead forever. Characters like Heath disappeared on the show, but they're still around in the comic. You know, it's like, and with Rick and Carl dead, and Michonne taking the place of Andrea on the show, from like, I mean, because since Andrea's been dead since season, what, 4? 3? The end of season 3, I think, yeah. It's just, they're so far off the mark now. And even though they kept really close to Rick and Carl's storyline, especially getting near, as Carl went on, he was getting so much closer to his comic book counterpart that it was great. But now that things are all gone, they're all gone, that you can just throw all of it out the window and let anything happen. Anything goes. It's like when the guys from Game of Thrones caught up to the books and didn't, you know, and even though they know what, you know, George R.R. Martin was going to do, his end game or whatever, I can tell you right now, that whole damn thing is like fan fiction now. Game of Thrones is like fan fiction now. It's still really good. Don't get me wrong. But it's fan fiction now. They can make shit up because they've caught up to the books, and who knows when the book will come out. So we won't be able to bitch about it until the show's probably over. And then, you know, we'll probably get a better version of, from, you know, the events in the next book. But, you know, who cares? Because by the time the book comes out, we'll have gotten the end chapter and it won't matter. So they can get away with this. But I just feel like, how did they miss the mark on this? This is a big thing. They could make a ton of money from this, from people who just want Walking Dead content 24/7. And they always want, they're like no break practically, right? So that's where I believe Fear the Walking Dead comes in. I don't think that they made Fear the Walking Dead to actually, they wanted a show that was just good enough to keep you satisfied until the show could come back, so that you'd always be watching AMC. But there's still those little breaks. So, you know, you get those like December, August areas, you know, between December and February, and like, what, June and August. They could be releasing the comic book, you know, a comic book version of events that they want to tell, anything they want to do in that time period, or they could do it year-round, whatever. It's a cash grab. I'm not saying cash grabs are good. I wouldn't personally read this, but I mean, I just feel like, how is it not a thing? Like Robert Kirkman and Skybound and AMC and everything, how have they not made a comic book version of the television show that they could sell for whatever they want? They could get any shitty comic book writer, any shitty comic book artist, because let's face it, they probably wouldn't make a high quality product. I know that's kind of a diss, but I mean, they wouldn't have to. They'd already have your money. People would just give them their money if they could get this, because you could tell new stories and have all this other stuff, and people would just eat it up, whether it was well written or well drawn or whatever. They'd just eat it up. And even if it failed, they probably wouldn't have spent that much to do it, because it's got to be cheaper than making a Walking Dead video game that's no good. It's got to be cheaper than thinking about like a Walking Dead cartoon series, maybe. Who knows what other ways? I mean, the movies, that's going to cost a bunch of money. A comic book, you wouldn't really be out that much money. And it just kind of blows my mind. And so I do plan on writing, the back of The Walking Dead has Walking Dead at Skybound.com. I do plan on writing them and asking them that very question. It's like, how is that not a thing? Like, and if not, like, if you guys like that idea, give me some sort of credit. Like, give me a story credit or something, like idea for this by Rob Stone. You know, like that. You know. So I should be like saying copyright, or here's where the idea started. I don't know, but anyway, that's about it. I mean, I just feel like it's just a natural thing that should have happened. In 9 years, nothing, and I can't believe it took me this long to think of this. And even though it may be abhorrent to hear, okay, it's still a business. And so I feel like if you can get Walking Dead keychains and t-shirts and everything else, how has it not been turned into its own version, you know, another comic book version? I mean, they didn't make a Fear the Walking Dead comic, I don't think, but, you know, like, why? Why didn't they do that either? So anyway, that was just something I wanted to bounce off people. I would really love to hear any positive or constructive thoughts on this. If you just plan on leaving negative comments, I will not listen to them. I will not respond to them. But I do really want to hear from people that think of this idea, because I really think financially, it's a really good idea. And for those people who just would love to have more content, I mean, I think, you know, Why the hell not? So anyway, if you liked this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all of that rigmarole. Otherwise, like I said, comment on this. I would really love that. Anybody who watches this, I would love to, I really appreciate you watching this. We are trying to hit 500 subscribers before the end of the year. So any new subscribers would be a lot of help. I really appreciate it. Otherwise, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews saying thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next video.